everybody, this is BioHazardia, and welcome to my second question and answer video in celebration for getting to 14k subscribers. Last time I did this for 7k subscribers, so I've got actually double the amount of subscribers now, which I couldn't be more thankful for. This time, I'm going to be answering all of the art questions that I got when I asked people to send me questions for a Q&A video. Basically, this will be about all the questions that people have asked me about my personal artwork. Last time when I answered questions, I was doing it on the book series Wings of Fire and my opinions about it, and the video was actually an entire 50 minutes long. I have a feeling this one is going to be super long too, so I'm going to get right into it. I hope that some of these questions satisfy your curiosity about my art. Okay, first question. When did you start drawing? From Tidewatcher, The Night Sea Wing, and Audrey Who. I've been drawing since I was really young, ever since I was 4 or maybe 5. When did you start seriously making artwork? From Sammy. That's actually a really smart question because I think there's a really big difference between doodling for fun and actually seriously trying to improve, like looking up techniques online and using references and stuff. Honestly, I think I've only started making artwork seriously in the past 2 to 3 years. I mean, I was a bit serious in middle school, I guess, and I drew a lot then because I had more time, but I wasn't really smart enough at that point to use references and intelligently try to learn things like color theory and composition. I mean, there weren't really any resources and YouTube videos for that. You had to actually go and buy books, which, you know, I didn't have money, so yeah. Like, nowadays, if you don't know how to draw a car, you can just type how to draw a car into YouTube and you get a million tips and resources, but when I was a kid, YouTube was just memes and stuff, so there wasn't really an animation or art community on it. Anyway, enough about the boomer days, and on to the next question. Who or what inspired you to start drawing? From Tidewatcher, The Night Sea Wing, Bearded Channel, Stargazer, The Nightwing, and Cyberfox. Unfortunately, I'm not really sure what inspired me because I started drawing when I was very young, and I can't really remember very much from that time. I know that when I was 4 or 5, I really liked dinosaurs a lot, so I would draw the dinosaurs I liked and characters from The Land Before Time, which I was super into when I was younger. I remember when I was in kindergarten, the other kids wanted me to draw dinosaurs for them, and then we would, like, cut them out of the paper and play with them, so I don't know, maybe that's it? Lunar Watcher asked, do you like traditional art as well? I like looking at traditional artwork, but I don't like doing it very much. And the next question is, do you do traditional drawings? If so, what materials do you use? From What Guy Creations and Albino Fury 05. So I used to do traditional artwork. Some examples are here. For example, I drew Starflight, Thoughtful, and Whiteout, and I drew the Jade Winglet as baby dragonettes. I drew those all with Copic markers. I also like using colored pencils and simple things like pencil and ballpoint pen. The thing is that traditional artwork is, like, messy, and I don't have a very good scanner to scan it, and I don't have good lighting in my apartment to take good pictures. Not to mention that traditional art is very expensive, with artist pencils and markers costing $2 to $5 a piece sometimes. Sometimes I'll occasionally draw something nowadays, traditionally, when I send letters to friends and stuff, but for the most part, I'm fully digital, especially since I got an iPad, which is like a mobile digital sketchbook. I still sketch in pencil and pen sometimes, though. Sketching in pen for observational studies is helpful. Do you prefer drawing dragons or backgrounds? From Lunar Watcher. I think it's hard to compare them because I like drawing both. I'd love to draw other subjects as well, such as getting better at humans and drawing other types of creatures, but don't got time for that right now. When did you start drawing dragons? From Chalky Milk, Kinkajou the Rainwing, Superior Sushi, Grim the Hybrid, and Green Dragon Vigil. I started drawing dragons a lot when I was in 1st grade, so when I was 6 or 7 years old. But then I stopped drawing dragons for a while, and I mostly drew wolves, sparkle dogs, and anime when I was in middle school and high school. When did you start drawing digitally? From Main Star Wolf. I started drawing digitally when I was 11 or so, which is a little over 10 years ago. What do you like to draw the most? From also Main Star Wolf. It's pretty easy to tell from my channel, but I love drawing dragons, of course, and Wings of Fire, as well as magical landscapes and just fantasy settings in general. I actually enjoy drawing humans as well, I just don't find them as interesting of subjects as the dragons, so, you know, the dragons just win out. But lately I've been drawing humans a bit more, just off this channel. When did you start YouTube? From XX Drawing Hazard XX. Let's see. It looks like my first video was posted on July 2017, but you can kind of tell I didn't put that much attention into YouTube until recently, starting in March this year. You can basically see where the more I post, the more viewers are interested. What inspired you to make a YouTube channel? From Bearded Channel and Tiny Scavenger. I remember that I stumbled across a multi-animation project, or map call, the Wings of Fire Nightwings map by Grey J, and I didn't even know what maps were at that time. For people who don't know what a map is, it's basically an animated music video made by many artists that are working together. Each artist animates a small portion of the video, and all the parts are put together into one cohesive video. I really liked the song that they picked, and I felt like it fit Darkstalker from Wings of Fire and his story really perfectly. The song was Pompeii by Bastille. I knew I really wanted to be part of the map, and I had to make a YouTube channel to join it. And at that time, I was only making map parts with Windows Movie Maker, and I knew like basically nothing about animation. But yep, that's when I first made my YouTube channel, and that's the reason why I first made my YouTube channel. What inspires you to keep going with YouTube and drawing? And what is your favorite part of posting on YouTube? From Treacherous, The Skywing, Cypress, and Bearded Channel. I actually noticed that YouTube gives way more engagement than any other social media platform. You guys might have noticed I tend to only post on YouTube once every few months or so, and especially until March, when I had more time because of the pandemic. But partly that's because uploading things onto YouTube requires a lot of work as opposed to uploading stuff on DeviantArt or Instagram. Like, those two I could just kind of like throw up a picture and like, okay, I'm done, whatever. But YouTube, I have to like edit a video and wait for it to load and export it, and it's like, oh my god. So it's really hard for me to keep up with my YouTube channel for the longest time. And I sometimes even went months without posting because I just had so much to do, like school and other random things. Okay, but anyway, back to the question, which is why I post on YouTube. The thing is that even though I didn't really post very much on YouTube, you guys still comment and interact with my art a lot more than their social media platforms. And I really appreciate whenever somebody comments and the interaction I get between people and myself, and that makes me want to post more and keep going with YouTube. And that's definitely my favorite thing about YouTube, is how interactive people are. Like, for example, at the time of making this video, I usually get more than 100 comments on each video I post. Whereas I've gotten over 100 comments on maybe only 2 or 3 other art pieces that I've ever posted on other social media, like DeviantArt or Instagram. What is your favorite artwork that you've made in 2020? From Night Dragon. I think my favorite artwork that I made this year, let's see, I'd say Sundew and Willow, the Sundew and Willow picture that I drew for the Poison Jungle anniversary. I really like the ship, and I always enjoy doing forest drawings, and I just think that it came out really well. I guess technically I started it in 2019, but no one needs to know that. What did you draw that gave you the spark to start drawing very well? From Stargazer the Nightwing. I don't really think it's anything. Like, I don't really think there was ever a spark where, like, I was bad and then suddenly I got good. Like, improving at drawing is a very gradual process. It's not something where you suddenly improve a lot in one go. I would say that drawing Wings of Fire and becoming part of that community has been a huge spark in encouraging me to keep drawing, though, because it's been a subject I've been interested in for a long time, so I just keep drawing it, and therefore I continue to improve because I'm drawing more frequently. But before I drew Wings of Fire, I actually had a long period of like 4 to 5 years where I barely drew at all because I just wasn't inspired by anything. Have you ever made an original series? From Dapple Springs. I have not. I would need a really good idea to make an original species. I wouldn't want to make an original species that's like, it's a dinosaur but with a furry tail, or it's a cat but with no eyes, or something like that. So I'd have to have a really original idea. Where do you get your ideas? From Dreamy Dragon. I kind of get them from everywhere. Songs and music, especially role plays that I do with my characters and others. Reading and thinking about stories and folklore. I have to say I'm bursting with ideas, though. There's never a time when I don't know what to draw. I've always had the problem where I have too many ideas and I can't work on all of them. There's never been a time where I'm like, Oh, I ran out of ideas. Dang. No, I have so many ideas constantly. What did my grade 7 teacher say when I was in art class? From Moonwatcher Eclipse. Actually, when I was a kid, my art teachers didn't really care about me very much. They were much more interested in students who drew like normal art stuff, you know, like figure studies and realistic people and bowls of fruit. Not that that's bad, but yeah, they didn't really care about people who drew dragons and creatures and wolves and things like that. I mean, I guess I understand why. Those kids were learning the art fundamentals way before I did, and most art teachers are taught in art fundamentals, so they probably care about that more, but I guess I did get enough recognition in middle school that I was allowed to paint a mural of a tattoo-style dragon, so that was pretty cool, but that was pretty much the extent of my artwork in school career, I guess. What is your favorite color to give your OCs and dragons, and your favorite color to draw on dragons? From Saber Cyber Tiger. You probably noticed from my dragon sona, but my favorite color is red, and it's my favorite color to paint in as well, because it's easy to shade with purple so that it looks really nice. So yeah, definitely red. But I actually try not to have too many red OCs, because I have my main character who's red, and she sort of represents me, and I also have Merlin, who I feel like is sort of a bit representative of my presence in the Wings of Fire fandom. So I try not to have as many red characters because they're sort of like my mains and they're red. What was your first digital drawing? From Ray Ray Quaza. Unfortunately, I don't think I have it anymore. My first digital drawing I remember was on this really old Wacom tablet that my dad had in the closet, and he's like, "Oh, you want this?" And I was like, "Oh, okay, sure, why not?" But I tried drawing on it, and I really hated it because I first of all had some major problems with hand-eye coordination, since I wasn't really looking where I was drawing and I was used to drawing on paper. And also the surface of the tablet was really slippery, so my hand would slip around and I had a lot of problems too. So I abandoned drawing digitally for a year and gave up, and then I tried again later with a better tablet, and I was much better at it. All my first drawings were on this really old site called Neopets, which I was rather obsessed with. I remember I wanted to draw and code web pages for my Neopets, and I was also really involved. Okay, this is gonna sound stupid, but I was really involved with this magical wolf pack guild, where I drew my magical wolf pack characters. And they had wings usually and magical powers. I lost most of my drawings associated with, but here's a Christmas picture that I did for a lot of the other people in the group with my characters and a bunch of the other people's characters. Here are the ones that are mine. How long have you been drawing? From Ray Ray Quaza and Albino Fury 05. This is actually a pretty nuanced question because I only very rarely drew for about 4 to 5 years when I was in college. It actually makes me really frustrated because I lost a lot of time that I could have been working hard and improving. If I had actually been drawing during that time, I would be a much better artist by this point. So I'm actually playing catch up with most of the artists who are my age. So far, I guess I've been drawing for about 13 or so years, though, since I started drawing when I was really young, remember, like I was like 4 or something. Who are your favorite artists and artists who you would consider as inspiration? From Peace Joy, Skittles the Furious Doodle, Dream Shade, and Superior Sushi, and Constellation. I have a few, so I'm just going to list them and show some of their artwork here. I really like Night Riser, Tati Langes, Rennie Polymorphus, Clockbirds, Remerin, Alex XZ, Captain Palu or Casalea, and Sandara. And I also really like Devin L. Kurtz or Tamborella. Who are your favorite YouTubers? From Evelyn Franson. I don't really closely follow any YouTubers, so it's hard to say. For example, I almost never join live streams. I'd prefer listening to podcasts instead. You're free to check out my channel and the channels that I'm subscribed to, though. That's probably the best way to find the YouTubers I like, and I'm also following a lot of my friends, too. There's a nice mix of animators, music makers, and even a couple of travel vlog channels, I think. Did you go to art school, and have you ever taken any art classes? From Akiza Anything and Falcon Fire. Nope, I've never gone to art school. I really actually wish I'd taken art classes as a kid because I think I'd be a lot better now. Like, all my friends who went to art school are just zooming ahead in improvement. And I'm thinking about taking some online courses now, but we'll see. The only thing that you might consider an art class that I've ever taken is that I did take a character design class in college as an elective. But my school was really academic oriented and it didn't really have a very strong fine arts program. So pretty much everybody who took that class just took it for fun more so than to actually build character design skills. The professor knew this and she went really easy on the students, and while she was extremely nice and I really liked her, she didn't critique my art very much and neither did the other students. So unfortunately, I didn't really learn very much from the class, although the class did one really big thing, which is that it forced me to draw a lot of humans and things I wouldn't have drawn normally. Unfortunately, a lot of the things that I did for that class got damaged in a flood, but I might do a video about it someday. Are you self-taught in art? From Macaw the Rainwing Artist. I mean, technically yes, because I've never taken any formal art classes, but I don't think that anybody can really say they are self-taught in artwork. No matter what, you're still looking at references, you're probably looking at tutorials, you're probably looking at videos in order to help understand shapes, colors, shading, and all that. So honestly, I don't really consider that self-teaching because someone still made those videos and I'm being taught by them. So whenever somebody says they're self-taught in art, I don't really believe that because they're still reading books, looking at videos, looking at tutorials, and learning from somebody. Is drawing for school/work, or is it a hobby of yours? From Logan Draws. It's actually completely a hobby. My main profession, I guess you could call it, is actually being a bioengineering PhD student. So to clarify, that's a graduate student, not a college student. That's basically like school after college, and it's sort of like a blend between a job and school. The best way to describe it is that being a PhD student is sort of like being an apprentice. So like, think of being an apprentice carpenter where you work aside a master carpenter, but instead you're an apprentice scientist working with a professor. But yeah, so far my artwork is just a hobby. I do monetize some things, like my channel on YouTube is monetized, and I do sell merch, Wings of Fire and Dragon merch on my Redbubble store. And that helps a lot actually, because students don't really get a lot of money, so like anything that I'm able to sell there is like has really helped a lot. And if you've bought anything from me, then like you have my extreme gratitude. But yeah, so far it's a hobby, but we'll see. What are some drawings that made you realize that you've improved a lot? From Akiza Anything. Well, that Sundew and Willow drawing that I mentioned earlier made me realize that I have improved a lot, since I'd drawn a couple's forest scene a year or two beforehand. So I was able to compare them and see how much better I'd gotten at backgrounds. And I could compare it to this drawing that I made of me and my friend's OCs in the forest when I was in middle school. And that's, of course, terrible. So that's some improvement. I'm hoping to do like a direct side-by-side like speed paint comparison though, for one of my coming up videos. Do you animate? From Depressed Rainwing and others. I usually animate by tweening, which means I'm using a program that moves an image around based on the directions you give it, and like this program will calculate how the images should look basically. So it takes your images, turns them to shapes, and it like moves the shapes around the screen as you direct. This is a form of animation that's vaguely similar to how 3D animation works. And in programs like Adobe After Effects, I can even sort of like rig the image and do like a puppet animation. So that's sort of what I did when I did the map part of Queen Scarlet laughing. However, I don't really do frame by frame animation. I've taken a few cracks at it, but it's just very time consuming and I'm not patient enough to take 6 hours to draw an animation that lasts only 2 seconds. How long do drawings take, and how long does line art take? From Alexandrite Draws and others. That completely depends on the drawing. Headshots are really fast, and they usually only take 1 to 2 hours, sometimes even shorter. But a full background drawing scene thing could take as long as 14 to 15 hours. In general, I would really like to draw faster, and I definitely admire people who can whip up a big backgrounded art piece in 5 to 6 hours. What drawing or animation apps did you start with? When I first started drawing digitally, I used this thing called CorelDRAW because it came for free with my tablet. I don't think it exists anymore, or if it does, it's probably pretty bad because I've never heard anybody recommend it. I then started using Photoshop Elements, and then I think I actually started using the actual Photoshop, which was CS2 or CS3 at the time. Then I found Paint Tool Side. I loved it because the blending in Sai is just so much better than Photoshop. So I used Paint Tool Sai for many, many years until in the last few months I've switched to Clip Studio Paint. It's actually pretty funny since most artists switch from other programs to Photoshop, whereas I actually left Photoshop to go use Paint Tool Sai. However, it's because Sai is much more drawing friendly. Photoshop actually has a lot of problems like brush lag and some garbage blending. I really also like Procreate for the iPad, and I would definitely recommend that to anybody starting out. But I didn't get my iPad until around 2-3 years ago. For animation, I started with Windows Movie Maker only 3 years ago, but obviously that wasn't going to work out very well, so I just jumped right into learning Adobe Premiere Pro. I'm actually trying to learn Adobe After Effects and Adobe Animate now, since Premiere Pro is really mostly for making movies and cinematography, whereas for After Effects is actually more so for animation. How do you overcome art blocks? Question by Dravia. Actually, the best way for me to overcome an art block is to do a particularly difficult piece of schoolwork or some chore that I really hate doing. Because then, while I'm doing the chore, I'm like, I wish I could just be drawing right now. I could draw this, I could draw that, and then when I actually do have time to draw afterward, I get very motivated. Next question. I've scrolled right down to your very first drawing on DeviantArt, which I believe is a wolf with wings as a gift to somebody. What compelled you to share your art? From Sparsinger. Oh my gosh, you are dedicated if you go all the way down to my garbage DeviantArt account. Okay, so that picture that Sparsinger is talking about is this one. He was my friend's OC named Shadow, and he could breathe like shadowy flames or something. That actually isn't my very first art on DeviantArt, but I sadly deleted all my earlier artworks because I was embarrassed by them. For why I shared my art, it comes back to the thing about Neopets that I was talking about before. That ye old virtual pet website that all creature artists started on for some reason. Anyway, that character, the winged wolf named Shadow, was one of my friend's characters from the Wolfie Magical Guild that I was talking about. And everybody was like making their pets' profiles and their characters' profiles all fancy with artwork and stuff. So I wanted to do that as well, and that's why I started sharing artwork and getting involved with the community. What has been your favorite piece of artwork to make? A speed paint, meme, map from Nutella Cherry? That is a good question. I think my favorite artworks are not the ones that have been my favorite to actually make. The reason for that is that my favorite artworks are the ones where I've really challenged myself and I improved because I forced myself to do something that I wasn't comfortable with. But when I usually challenge myself, I'm like usually having these feelings of doubts that are like, oh no, it's not gonna come out good enough. I'm gonna go backward in my art development. So my favorite artworks to make are usually the ones that are spontaneous and loose, where I don't get really freaked out or get all perfectionist over it. But because of that, they don't come out as polished or as inventive, so they're not usually my favorites once they're finished. I'd say the thumbnail contest entry for Cougar Coast The Jungle animation project, that one was really fun to work on. I remember just the idea came to me and I finished it in a couple hours because I was just zooming through it and I was really motivated. I really enjoyed working on that one. Also this gold dragon picture from Dungeons and Dragons that I did a little while ago, and the drawing of Flower and Smolder I did. They were ideas that popped in my head. They were easy to execute, and they just flowed really well from my brain to my hands to the paper. I mean, the computer screen. It was a really nice, simple process. How do you put so much detail in your artwork? From Azura and Springy. Actually, detail is my favorite part about a drawing. Oftentimes I have to hold back from putting in too much detail everywhere. So for me, putting detail in is like, oh yes, I finished my dinner, time for dessert. What part of the drawing process do you like or hate the most? From Luck. I mentioned that I like detail and shading the most, but for hate, for sure, the part I hate the most is line art. I don't like precision. I prefer instinctual and free strokes. Since line art usually has to be really precise, I really dislike it, and that's why a lot of my things have been lineless lately, or I've just gone straight from my sketch lines to my painting. This is one reason why I really dislike doing frame by frame animation, because most of the work is the line art. When did your art start becoming popular? From Falcon Fire. It's definitely when I started posting Wings of Fire, and it was pretty much immediately when I started posting Wings of Fire. I think that's because of two things. One is because Wings of Fire is a smaller fandom, and it was especially pretty small when I joined, and there weren't as many skilled artists in the fandom back then. Now there's tons and tons of skilled and talented artists in the Wings of Fire fandom, and it's a lot harder to become famous, quote unquote, because there's a lot of just really accomplished people wherever you look. Second, I think it's because I actually consistently draw one subject now, like dragons. When I was younger, I mostly drew OCs, and nobody really cared about them very much. This is why I kind of have a stigma against drawing my OCs. I mean, I think it's awesome if other people draw them and they get attention for it, but nobody really cared about my OCs when I was younger, and I was always a bit put off by that. I know a lot of you guys are really kind and you've asked me about my OCs and to share their stories and such, so I'll probably do that someday, but nowadays that's why I don't really draw them. And whenever I drew fan art back in the day, I always drew so little because I just didn't really have as much time and I wasn't as motivated, so I was drawing something for a different fandom every time I posted something. So it wasn't really anything to follow, like, people wouldn't know what I would post next, so it just wouldn't interest them. Like, people usually follow other people who draw from one fandom or, like, one type of subject. Like, you draw all people or all creatures or all wolves or things like that. I also only drew once a month, so, or even less, actually mostly less, so I was very inconsistent. The algorithms on YouTube and Instagram and stuff don't like you if you don't post at least once every other week, preferably once a week or multiple times a week, so yeah, basically I think all those things were kind of working against you when I was younger. Also, I just wasn't as skilled, and then, like, that's why when I was younger I wasn't really popular at all, but, like, once I started posting Wings of Fire stuff and, like, focusing on dragons, then I became more well-known. I still wouldn't consider myself popular. I mean, I think you need at least, like, 20, 50, 100K to be, like, truly popular on YouTube. What's the hardest thing for you to draw? From Main Starwolf. For sure, anything that's really perspective heavy and geometric. I'm pretty impatient, so remember, I don't like the patience that's needed to do straight, clean lines and proper geometric shapes. So, like, airplanes, cars, furniture inside a house, I just suck at anything like that. Maybe I should learn Blender so I have something in 3D that I can work off of. What would you be drawing if you had chosen not to read or draw Wings of Fire? From Elistray and Alaska Nay. The scary thing is that I probably would not be drawing at all had I chosen not to read Wings of Fire or get into the fandom. Wings of Fire really inspired me to start drawing every day, whereas before I would make a colored art piece like once or twice a year. I honestly don't know what the answer to this question is. Would you ever consider attending a convention with your art? From Elistray. Not right now. Frankly, I don't think people would buy it. Most of my fans are Wings of Fire fans, and they don't really go to conventions. Any dragon fans or furries who follow me probably already go to furry conventions, and there's a lot of amazing furry dragon artists who are way more skilled than I am. And also those people tend to prefer commissions anyway of their own OCs as opposed to just buying generic art. If I was ever to actually go to a convention, if there was like a Wings of Fire convention or something, I would definitely go and bring prints and stuff of my art, but I don't think there will ever be a Wings of Fire convention, as much as we can hope. Do you prefer drawing more cartoony or more realistically? From Mukar and Max R. That's hard. I don't think there's a good answer to that. I think both are definitely important. I want to draw realistically, but at the same time, being able to draw cartoony helps with expressions and making your art more alive and less stiff, so both are definitely important. What is your most difficult experience relating to art? From Rs and Agent Main. Let's see, most frustrating. Definitely when you forgot to save your art and then your art program crashes and you're like, "Dah!" and you lose all your work. Or when you go on the wrong layer and you're like, "Gah! I have to redo everything." I mean, I think because of the stupid algorithms, there's a lot of pressure for creators to post constantly and always be working, always be creating, which is very stressful sometimes, especially when you're dealing with school too. For someone who's more well-known, I can say that there's a lot of pressure on you to be perfect. Like, I know there's a lot of people who look up to me as a role model in artwork and in life, I guess, which is very, very humbling, and it still surprises me every time somebody says that. But I know that there's also a lot of people who are like kind of waiting for me to lose my patience or something, or like say the wrong thing or make one wrong move, and then they can like spill that hot tea and spread the drama. And I would say a lot of popular people face this, not just artists. Like any creator or influencer or celebrity or something probably faces this. And I don't even think I'm that popular, again, as I mentioned before. So it's just a lot of pressure, and it's pretty sad that people are sort of all waiting for other people to mess up. Are you satisfied with where you are in your art career? From Addison Yelton. Actually, I'm not satisfied at all. I personally feel I have to play a major catch-up game with other artists my age because, remember, I didn't draw much for 5 years before I joined the Wings of Fire fandom, and I didn't go to art school. So I'm always looking to improve my art skills, and I want to get a lot better. I think I still have much to improve. I mean, a lot of the artists who I really idolize are people who are close to my own age, if not younger than me sometimes, so I really think that I have to step it up, and I really do want to get better. Where do you want to increase your art skills? From Zero Wolf. So, as I mentioned, I do have some of my art idols, and if I could increase my skills to their levels, I'd be very happy. But, you know, honestly, knowing me, I'd probably just want to improve more. I think my idols are also trying to improve all the time, too, so we're all trying to improve in the end. Addison Yelton asked, what's your goal with your channel and Instagram? So the petty side of me really wants to get to 100k subs on YouTube, because there's just some irrational part of me that really wants that silver play button plaque that YouTube mails to creators who have over 100,000 subscribers. That's definitely the petty answer. I just want it on my wall, and people be like, what's that? And be like, well. But okay, for a real answer, I think it would be really nice if I was able to make enough money from my artwork to be able to do it part-time or full-time instead of a hobby. I guess I'm not really sure about that though, because I like science too, of course, and I'd really like to finish my PhD in bioengineering and actually put it to use. This next bit is going to sound a bit adultish, but I'd really like more control of my time. I don't like having to ask a boss or my professor for vacation time, and I would really like to do whatever I want when I want instead of conforming to a 9-to-5 workday and like slogging to an office every day and stuff like that. And if my art could get me there, along with the support of fans, that would be really incredible. Okay, one thing I can say is that one major goal of my artwork was to be fully able to pay for my sushi eating habits. And now it has. So for that, I'm really thankful. Last question. Do you know how to draw humans or humanoids? From Zero Wolf. And do you only draw dragons? From Ebony the Wingless Mudwing. I think I had some time to improve with humans. So yeah, I'd say I can draw humans too. I mean, I could definitely get better, but here's some humans I've drawn in the past year. I drew Leaf before Dragon Slayer came out, and I drew Ren and Sky together. And I drew Aang with blue. I still like to do more of those Avatar Wings of Fire speed paints. And this is my OC Camilo, who I drew as well. I also made a painting of some family friends for Christmas, which was more of a stab at realistic style. I guess dragons and backgrounds are my main subjects though, and that's what I usually draw. Alright, I think that's everything. Whew, another huge question and answer video down. Not quite as huge as the last one, but still pretty long. I hope you guys got all your questions answered and you learned something fun or entertaining about me. I've still got a ton of questions to go, but that will have to be in other videos when I hit some other subscriber milestone. Till then, I'm very, very thankful for everybody who subscribed to my channel or everyone who just watches my videos. Until the next one, see ya!